Mhm.
Um, KCRW has a committee called the Inclusivity Committee. It came about as a result of the activities from last summer, the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, many other people around that same time that don't have the same name recognition as those three in particular, and the protests and the call outs. WFTDA ended up getting called out
Yeah.
in regards to how they have upheld racism. And to their credit, they finally took a step back and said, you know what, skaters of color, you're right.
Yeah, good.
We haven't done right by y'all.
Yep.
We need to fix this. And they have created a group called the Anti-Racism Team Project, or the ART Project. And we are,
You're part of that,
disclaimer,
yes.
I'm a
Yeah.
part of that.
Yay.
I see us as kind of an advisory board in a way. And this is not just people from within WFTDA USA. This is an international group of folks, because white supremacy,
Mhm.
at least how it presents itself here in America, white supremacy puts America first and foremost and highest above all else. And we expect other people, using Derby, for example, we expect other teams within Derby to do things the way we do it here in America.
Yep.
Not keeping in mind that there are cultural differences, there are economic differences, there are travel disparities
Mhm.
that can arise with trying to be part of this global organization that focuses so much of its content and its resources and its representation on how it's done here in America. So this group is tackling racism, excuse me, racism as it shows itself in various forms. And one of the things that we are trying to work on right now is how, I'm sorry, I'm backing up to the KCRW Inclusivity Committee, but also it's starting to show itself in our project as well,
Uh-huh.
how white supremacy is showing itself in Derby.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow Baller Shot Caller.
Yep.
Did you see her
Amazing
recent post?
skater. Yeah, I haven't seen what but she's, yeah, just so people know, she is an amazing skater. She's in
Phenomenal.
yeah, Atlanta.
Yeah, she has
And
totally blocker goals for me.
yeah, yeah, phenomenal skater. So yeah, no,
Yeah,
I what feel free, expand. What did
yeah.
she say?
She has retired from Atlanta Roller Derby,
Oh my gosh.
and she put out a post explaining why. Um, and I had no idea that. But I ain't gonna lie, it broke my heart to see that, both for her and her experience, and also for Atlanta as a whole. Because when WFTDA came out last summer and said, we are not doing right by our skaters of color, we need to become more of an anti-racist organization,
Yeah.
Atlanta Roller Derby was front and center going,
Yeah, I saw their
yes,
statement.
this,
Yeah.
yeah. They put out statements, they came up with recommendations, they started working with WFTDA to try to implement more anti-racist policies and actions. So when they started doing that, I know a lot of people throughout Derby who were ready for these type of changes. They were like, yes,
Right.
this is awesome. WFTDA is trying to make the changes. Atlanta's, stepping in to show them how to do it. And then when Baller came out with her post that was basically saying that there was a bunch of other stuff going on underneath the surface, and their skaters of color, and which Atlanta was, at least I don't know about their home teams, but their travel team, very representative
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
of people from a lot of different ethnicities. The first time I saw Atlanta skate, there was a it was at a regionals in Dallas.
Mhm.
And at one point they had a line that was all Black folks. And it
Yeah.
blew my mind in 19 different ways. I was like, oh my God, look, it's a chocolate line. Oh my God. I mean, I had never seen that. And I
Yeah.
felt like I could actually, there might be a spot for me in this world, you know.
Yeah.
I might be able to aspire to be like this.
Mhm.
And they were all, you know, badass skaters. And Baller was on that line. And I was like, I want to be you.
Yep.
Want to be you. So when her post came out and she was talking about all of these things happening under the surface where skaters of color were feeling not welcomed or not appreciated. And then um, some of those players are starting to retire from the league, and how Atlanta's work towards anti-racism was great out there on, you know, social media paper,
Right.
but they weren't really taking steps inside. And then she's on, or was on the board for Atlanta, and just happened to miss a meeting. But I think a day or so after missing the meeting, she was served, you know, basically served notice that if you don't provide an explanation as to why you missed this meeting, we'll be, you know, rescinding your duties, and you could possibly lose your place on the board. And she's like, wait, I just missed a meeting that I didn't know was happening, and now you're threatening me with expulsion?
That's
Let me save you the trouble.
yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and peace out.
Yeah.
And while I'm peacing out, I'm gonna put you on blast. You ain't doing what you said you were trying to do.
Yeah.
And
And we're
I
and
had to,
just a quick note too, because I remember I actually wrote about Baller Shot Caller in my memoir because she was at the 2012, what was that, 20 or 2011 regionals. She actually, there's a picture, I'll have to send it to you, where she fell on her head. And I remember, and she got up and walked away. Like I mean, she was just a phenomenal skater, but she has been in the league or in roller derby that long, that she was playing at an all-star level since at least 2011. So we're talking about somebody who is a
got some
long time.
longevity.
Yeah. So, okay. So keep going.
Yeah. Um, she got a ton of support
Yeah.
for that post and a lot of shares. And I took that post and shared it with our inclusivity committee
Yeah.
in the hopes that we would talk about it. And at first we didn't talk about it, and it was starting to kind of get on me because, again, it was another situation of, and in this case it was a smaller group, but another situation in general of something happening to someone of color, and it needs to be talked about and brought up to the surface,
Yeah.
and not a whole lot of folks in the league wanting to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
So I responded back, please, y'all, somebody comment on something because this is really bothering me.
Yeah.
And to the group's credit, there's been several people in that committee who started talking about it. And one of the questions that was brought up was, what would it look like if we could take our Atlanta's example and KCRW, how it conducts itself, and notice the similarities in how white supremacy is showing up both there and also here, because we don't want to be pointing fingers at someone else when we've got, you know, multiple fingers pointing back at us.
Yep.
And so basically the question from one of our skaters, Biddy, came out, um, what does white supremacy look like in Derby?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a damn good question.
Yep.
And I didn't want to answer for other skaters of color
Mhm.
throughout the league. But for me, just a couple of examples, white supremacy shows up as being kind of low key disappointed that a Black skater, myself, isn't naturally fast, and just kind of having your playing time, you know, reduced as a result. And that's an example of a stereotype about Black people not coming to reality and then punishing that person
Mhm.
for not living up to your stereotyped reality.
Yeah.
It shows up as your question earlier about feeling embraced
Mhm.
by the league as a Black person as opposed to as a queer person.
Mhm.
It shows up as saying that we are wanting to be diverse, but then giving more time and more space and more energy to some areas of diversity than others. KCRW is a very queer friendly league,
Mhm.
but I haven't noticed the same energy. We haven't kept the same energy for issues that affect people of color
Yeah.
in general, skaters of color in particular. Um, it shows up, and actually, I had made a list, just things that happened to me. Off the top of my head, white supremacy shows up as defensiveness when called out or called in on one's actions and attempting to explain to the person who has been hurt by the action why they shouldn't feel that way. It shows up as the loudest silence, particularly when progress is attempting to be made. Now, that person may support the progress deep down, but the silence and inaction communicates the total opposite message, that care is not given about progress. And I came up with that one because there have been times, say, I'm probably gonna get in trouble, but there have been times in, say, league meetings where something came up that was kind of touchy, and I knew that there were people who supported doing things a different way,
Mhm.
but they didn't say anything about that support because maybe they were afraid about um, someone else thinking, uh, not saying it right. They were afraid of someone else's reactions
Mhm.
or afraid of being put on that person's shit list, so to speak, what,
I mean, yeah, this
in
is
whatever way.
derby
Yeah.
politics where you could lose a spot on a team or not get as
Or
much
not
playing
getting the
time.
playing time and things like that,
Yeah.
or be given grunt work to do in order to prove yourself or whatever.
Yep.
Um, but they wouldn't speak out in support of doing this differently or doing that differently because you know basically trying to protect themselves. But that support to someone who is making that suggestion, and
Yep.
particularly if it was suggestion that was related to being more out there trying to be anti-racist,
Yep.
it gives the appearance that you don't care. And for me, myself, I've started pulling away from people because I'm trying to protect myself from folks who don't care.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, Let me see. Oh, it shows up as giving minimal effort or energy to only one other at a time, usually Black or Latinx, at the expense of every other, Indigenous, Asian, non-US, etc. It shows up as rolled eyes or not paying attention during meetings whenever diversity, equity, or inclusion needs or perspectives are raised. Doesn't affect me. Why should I care?
Mm.
It shows up as questioning the authority of people of color in leadership positions or dismissing their abilities and expertise altogether.
Mhm.
It shows up as being really resistant to change and pushing back against that change because that's the way we've always done it, while being deeply unaware that the way it's always been done has benefited straight, cis, able bodied white folks more than anyone else.
Yep.